Hey guys, Fox Protocol Mining here, coming at you from the Fox Den. So, in today's video, I'm just going to cover power supplies, specifically which one I prefer the most, and a couple different ways that you can go about powering your rigs. So, I want to cover a few things before I start talking about the actual power supplies. Um, First is to make sure that you identify what type of electric that you're going to be running your rigs on. If you're running on 240 or your standard household outlets, which is 110. Now the reason this is important is because if you use a traditional computer power supply, which is an ATX power supply, they have specific ratings, anywhere from 400 to 1200 watts and probably a little bit higher than that. But the reason that's important is because an ATX power supply can be plugged into a 110 outlet and it will give the rated watts. So if it says 750 watts, you plug it into the wall, it's going to give you 750 watts. Now, why am I bringing that up? Because server power supplies function a little bit differently than that. Server power supplies are specifically intended for 240 volt, which means they're not as efficient on 110, and some do not function at all on 110. So before you buy server power supplies, if you're new to this, make sure that you check the maximum output ratings. This is a 1200 watt rated PSU. On 240, it gives the full 1200 watts. On 110, it's only giving 900 watts. So please check that before you make any purchases. That way you're getting a working product. Now, also, anything that I review today is going to be linked down in the description, so that way you guys have easy access to this stuff. So I'm going to jump into this. Why is this my favorite power supply? Well, this one is the most unique one I'm going to show you today, and it's kind of an all-in-one. This is designed to replace an ATX power supply for your rig. It includes a 24-pin connector, and it also includes a Molex bypass that will power your CPU and your hard drive. So this Molex will just plug in, 24-pin plugs in, and those two things will power your board. You then have 6-pin connections for all your GPUs, and you even have 4-pin floppy connections for all of your 120mm fans, so that way you can literally power your entire rig using nothing but a single server power supply. So, in a nutshell, to me, it's the best value. You can get 16 6+2 cables with this for only $142. That is a ton of cables. It's more than you're ever going to need. Because that's, well, I can't say that. It's not necessarily more than you're ever going to need. That just depends on how many GPUs you're using. It fits me perfectly because I build 8 GPU rigs. So that's my target on all my rigs is 8 GPUs. Once I hit that, I start over and I start building a whole new rig. The only reason I do that is because I find that my stability is better when I do that. Now, this is not the only way to do it. There are plenty of other ways. I am about to show you another way. So this is a slightly more potentially cost-effective way to power your rigs. This is an 1100 watt PSU that pumps out just over 1000 watts on 110 and roughly the same on 240. Now you'll notice this does not have the same breakout board. It does not have the 24-pin adapter. So could you use this in lieu of your ATX power supplies? Yes, you absolutely can. Parallel Miner has actually come up with this little doohickey. This is a 6-pin that plugs into this breakout board. And then it includes a 4-pin CPU, a SATA connection for your hard drive, an extra Molex, and the 24-pin connector for the board. So this would enable you to plug this directly into your motherboard, and it would potentially power everything. Now, I will state really quick that from previous experience, I have had issues with these during reboots. So if you're using Rave Hive or even Windows, and your rig experiences a reboot from like a GPU fault, for example, these tend to not come back on. They will shut down and then they will need to be manually rebooted. It is a bit of a drawback. I'm not sure if that was just me personally, but that's just my personal experience. And one of the reasons why I moved away from these. However, they're very cheap compared to other power supplies and stackable. They have these 4-pin floppy connectors, and you can actually daisy chain these together and stack them, and they'll all come on together. And it's really great if you're powering a large number of GPUs. Furthermore, you can also use this in addition to an ATX power supply. Basically, you would just take this connection, which is generally on the end of the Molex connectors. It's a 4-pin floppy connection, and you simply plug it in to the breakout board right here. And when your ATX power supply kicks on and off, just make sure you have this powered on, and it will work in tandem with your ATX power supply. Again, you may still have issues with reboots if you use these. Just keep that in the back of your mind when you're purchasing them. This does tend, though, to be the most cost-effective option. Most people will buy like a 500 watt ATX power supply and use it specifically to power the CPU and board, and then they will buy these and link them and power all their GPUs. Now, maybe you don't like server power supplies. Maybe for simplicity you enjoy using computer power supplies. Well, if that's the case, then this is a pretty decent starting option. It is off-brand, but I have found these to be very reliable. I have used them several times on a few of my rigs, and I've never had them fail on me. And I've had one running for about 2 years without fail. I have had to dust it a few times, but other than that, it runs like a top. This is only $137 plus your tax. It comes with 4 8-pin connections and 4 SATA connections, which is pretty decent for an 850 watt power supply. It comes with all the connections you'll need, including the floppy adapter if you wanted to use this in connection with a server power supply. Also, ATX power supplies are stackable. You'll just need to use this particular cable here, which enables you to plug in your 24-pin connectors from both ATX power supplies. Your primary power supply will be the one connected by the 24-pin, and your secondary will have this 2-pin runner to it, which basically just tells it when to turn on and off. And that will enable you to stack your 850 watt power supplies, which will bring you 1,700 watts of power potentially, which is pretty significant. And that would bring you at the probably right around the $300 range for 1,700 watts, which isn't terrible for ATX power supply as they go. Server power supplies are pretty much always going to be cheaper unless you're getting these second hand, so keep that in mind. But like I said, everybody does things a little bit differently. Just a couple examples. This guy's running his server power supply alongside of an ATX to power all his cards. That's just for simplicity reasons. That this is what goes into it. You also have people that like to run these in tandem, which you'll need your 24-pin connection cable if this is what you're planning on doing with something like this. Or if you want to use what I advertised here just for the simplicity of having the link, that's down below. But that pretty much covers it in a nutshell, guys. So parallel miner is a really good stop if you're looking at server power supplies. If you want to save some money, go on there and look them up. They ship very quickly. They're very reliable. They're very legit. I've ordered from them numerous times and I've never been dissatisfied. Again, thermal take is my ATX option. EVGA is really good too, and so is Corsair. But Thermal Take is like the off brand that I tend to go with, just because they're significantly cheaper than EVGA and Corsair, and they're still pretty high quality. So you get a decent quality product, and you save a pretty substantial amount of money. And again, this is just a random one I found on Amazon. You can order these from eBay, Amazon, wherever. I know that they're getting kind of hard to find right now because there's a lot of people buying these. This is actually a 2-pack that I have linked down below, so you'll have an extra just in case you ever need to change out the cables or anything. So that sums up this video, guys. I hope this was informative and you guys found this helpful. If I missed anything or there's another way of doing this that I potentially need to cover, please hit me up in the comments and let me know. But otherwise, guys, this is the Fox Den, and I'm signing off.